Hi everyone, how you doing? I have had to do a voiceover on this bit because I don't sound like me when I did the recording today. It was very matter of fact. But I've come to Royton Town Centre to show you Royton Market Hall. Looking at the clock face here, and I'm talking about years ago when they made it. There was a bit of rivalry between Royton and Shaw, and the people that built it decided that what they were going to do is they were going to put a smaller clock on the back of the hall so that the people of Shaw really struggled or couldn't see it. And I'm just showing you here now at the back. I'll arrow up to the back face there, but you can clearly see a distinct difference between the sides. And what happened was Shaw did exactly the same to Royton thereafter. So making our way down to Henshaw Street. Henshaw Street, back in the day, used to be called Boggart Hall, and some of the adjacent streets off the side of it were called Priest Hill. Radcliffe Street was named after a guy, I think he was called William Radcliffe, and he was actually the man that gave the land that Bluecoat School lands on, or Bluecoat School is on to this day. In the early 1800s, here stood Thomas Henshaw's hat factory. Thomas Henshaw was the benefactor of Bluecoat School, and he was pronounced insane when he wrote his will, leaving the equivalent of £1 million to build the school back in the day. We're outside the drill hall on St Mary's, now derelict and no doubt soon to be pulled down, but this was where the men were mobilised for both World War I and World War II of the Manchester Regiment. The Civic Centre, built in the 1960s, has its very own nuclear bunker, which is like an old time capsule in the basement of the building. So big in everyone, that's the Emirates plane coming in. Massive. This man can't believe his eyeballs. Oh, right, we're coming down to the site of the old swim. Well, no, I'm not going to say the old swimming baths, because the old swimming baths in Oldham was the one on Union Street, Central Baths. But there was another baths, as you'll remember, before they knocked it down, which was built in I think that was the 60s as well. But anyway, prior to the old baths, which stood here for many years with the diving pools and everything, this site housed a church. There was quite a few churches around. There was one here, and there was another one that was just over on St Mary's, which at one time was called Radcliffe Street. Also, as you see, we're walking down Lord Street. Back in the late 1700s, Lord Street housed its very own jail or prison, and it was a fully fledged prison, which is where they sent a lot of the people from Oldham. Right, everybody, so I want to give you a bit of background on this one. So you'll have heard me many times moaning and groaning about the change that's happening in Oldham, what buildings are knocking down, etc. It's not a modern thing. Oldhamers have been moaning about demolition in the town for many years, and it actually goes back to the early 1800s when the Oldham church as we know it now isn't the original church. In fact, the one that was before it isn't the original church, but I think there's been 3 churches on this ground since the 1300s, when the first church was ever built, or the first Oldham Parish church. So back in the 1820s when this building was built, in fact before that, there was a previous church. It was a smaller church. The Weathercock, actually, or the Weather Vane, is still within the church. In fact, it's just behind this door in the back. But yeah, Oldhamers were kicking off back in the early 1800s because many people in the town, the cotton spinners, which was a developing market back then, they were trying to get the old church knocked down. They said it wasn't fit for purpose. Interestingly, back then in the early 1800s, there was 70,000 people within Oldham. I think the last time I checked, modern days, there was 100. So there hasn't really been that much of a change in terms of population in Oldham. However, it might be a lot bigger now. That was about 5 years ago when I checked. But yeah, there was a big kick-off about the church being built. There was a big kick-off about the church being built, and it basically took the what's it called, where you the altar, that's it. It took the altar to collapse in order for them to be able to knock the church down. This building was complete in 1827, I believe. And interestingly enough, the same person or the architect that drew up plans for this church also drew up the plans for Bluecoat School, which is just around the corner. The church is called St Mary's and St Peter's. Originally it was always St Mary's, but in the 1960s there was another church in Oldham called St Peter's, and that was demolished to make way for the Spindles shopping centre. Well, not Spindles actually, for the old St Peter's shopping centre, but it's where Spindles stands now. The back of the church, what you're looking at here, I think they call it the vestries. They do actually. This was built from the stone, which was St Peter's Church. And if you look on the back here, there's a plaque in the wall which commemorates it, and it says these vestries were built AD 1967 of the stone from St Peter's Church, Oldham. The bell of St Peter's was sent to Limeside, and it was placed in the church there. Where it is now, I've got absolutely no idea, because Limeside doesn't have a church anymore. Wouldn't be my channel, everybody, if we didn't have a look at some gravestones while we're here. Look at this one. This is, here lies the body of William Booth, Senior of Royton, Yeoman, which means a chief, who was buried on the 13th day of April, Anno Domini 1725. Also, Sarah, his first wife, buried June 22nd, 1692. And I wanted to show you this one. This one says, this stone was substituted for the original stone by the Oldham Free Church Council in 1913. Here rested the body of Robert Constantine, clerk. He was buried December 1699. Now, interesting. I think Robert Constantine is the guy who founded a lot of churches in Oldham. In fact, I'm absolutely sure of it. I'm going to check that out. And Francis's wife was buried March 29th, 1695. Also Sarah, his daughter, wife to Ellis Ranshaw of Manchester. Apothecary, I don't know what that means. Buried in 1695. The original stone is underneath. Over here is where the original, well, not the original, the statue of John Platt, which now resides in Alexander Park, we'll be going there later, originally stood. And this building here was originally a hotel. Pretty sure they've knocked the original hotel down though and rebuilt it, or they've changed the face of the building, because at one point it was square. In the mid-1800s, Oldham was the world's largest cotton spinning mill town in the, I said the world, didn't I? The world. Today you've got Sports Direct and Poundland, but did you know that this was the second arcade in Oldham? There was two. There was a Hilton, which is still there, and this was the second arcade. Now they've closed it up and it forms parts of the shops. The Spindles Shopping Centre, currently going under regeneration. I think they're moving the council offices when they knock the Civic down, which they're going to be doing soon. But the Spindles is built on top of where St Peter's Church used to stand. St Peter's was a cemetery as well, and in order to build St Peter's precinct, which came before, they had to remove all the bodies and relocate them. Some of them went to Hollywood, some of them went to the tip where Caskenmore School, or Caskenmore, which is the original pronunciation, used to stand. The changing face of Town Square Shopping Centre. Down there you used to be able to get to TJ's and what have you. That's been completely blocked off from public now. As you can see, a big change. Oldham Tommyfield Market we're on now. Originally gifted to Oldham by a local and landowner. His name was Thomas, and I can't remember his surname, but I will put it in. But he gifted this land to the people of Oldham so that they were able to sell the goods. And it's been here for at least 200 years. Soon to be wiped out, so that either they can extend this car park, or rumour has it they're going to build some flats.